is the biggest, most important draft in the history of this Philadelphia football franchise. The JAKIB Media Sports 2022 NFL Draft Special. Live on 6abc.com from the Ocean Casino and Resort in Atlantic City. Presented by First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. IBEW Local 98, Stateside Vodka, United Healthcare, Mesa Law, 6ABC, and Budweiser, the official beer of the Philly sports fan.
It has finally arrived. We've been waiting patiently for a good couple of months. I would say we turned our attention to what are the Eagles going to do in the NFL draft. Well, prior to today, they made a big deal with the New Orleans Saints to decrease their number of first-round picks from 3 to 2. But at 2, that's still plenty to talk about. And we'll talk about it leading up to tonight's draft for the next 2 hours right here on Birds 365. John McMullen, Jordan McDonald, hanging with you guys. J-Mac, you will get in your car at some point and drive over to the NovaCare complex. You haven't done that in a while, have you?
Last time, I guess, was for Kaiser White, so not too long ago. But yeah, first time for a while with the draft and obviously post-pandemic. Not quite back to normal. They're not going to let us watch the draft on the big screen in the auditorium, but they are going to let us talk to Howie Roseman in the auditorium. So we're getting closer. We're going to be shuttled off to the media house to watch the draft, but it's better than nothing. We're getting a little bit closer. I'm more excited about we're 12 hours away, a little bit underneath. I'm going to go to draftcountdown.com right now. 11 hours, 57 minutes, 31 seconds, Jody. So we're finally here. Boy, I got to tell you, man, you know, we do this show every day. You're on the air, other places all the time. This is, and you've been covering the draft for a long, long time, back to the Radio City days. This is I've been covering this draft for a long time. I've rarely seen this much uncertainty at the top of the draft. It really is a crazy year.
I go back to the Felt Forum days.
Yeah.
Which is where they had it before they moved it over to Radio City Music Hall, which if you're taking a train or a subway, that's quite convenient. Subway lets out right below the draft.
Yeah.
All you got to do is take an escalator up.
Penn Station action. But yeah, the Felt Forum. I remember the NBA draft at the Felt Forum. So what's it called now? The Garden, the theater at Madison Square Garden, I think it's called now. But yeah, I missed it.
By the way, haven't been in it since. I did an NFL draft. I had been in it previously for some concert shows. It's a nice little room. You got the garden upstairs, 19,000, whatever it is. And then for a nice little 1,500, 2,000 person, they put shows downstairs. And I've been in there for concerts. Yeah, not since I moved the draft there. When they went up to Radio City, I said I'm not setting foot in the
by the way, I miss Radio City Music Hall. I thought that was a lot of fun when the draft was there. Obviously, everything's about money. They're able to take it on the road and turn it into this big extravaganza. But I got to admit, I miss the days of Radio City Music Hall. It was fun when it was here in Philadelphia on the Parkway, though. So, you know, there's some give and take, and it's nice that other cities can get involved, but I miss Radio City, Jody.
Speaking of which, on the location, tonight is going to be it's scheduled to be a big experience, a big extravaganza in Las Vegas. There are weather issues. I turn on NFL Network this morning. The entire city of Las Vegas is under some kind of weather watch. Expected high winds in excess of 20 miles an hour, as you can probably guess.
Oh, it's basically my house. You know, it's always 22 miles. It's blowing again here, so yeah, they'll make do. They'll make do. But it is strange. You don't think about weather typically as being a problem in Las Vegas, but hey, anything can happen.
Whether or not shouldn't be an issue for the NFL draft, but it is, because they are planning to have it outdoors. Now, undercover, but outdoors. And as of right now, they're putting contingency plans in place if they have to move it indoors, because as of right now, it's going to be a problem for the draft tonight. It's a draft. This is not a game. There are no footballs going to be flying around. If there are, they're not supposed to be. But it's amazing that we're dealing with weather issues on an NFL draft night. And yes, it's going to go off at 5 o'clock Vegas time, which means 8 o'clock our time. And here comes the old East Coast unofficial bias that I am going to complain about. There's 10 minutes between picks. I remember, again, at the Felt Forum and/or Radio City Music Hall, it was 15 minutes between picks. And the first round could literally take sneaking up on 7 hours. This way that it's scheduled 10 minutes per pick, you got 32 picks. That's over 5. And oh, by the way, if they start at 8, it's not finishing till 1 o'clock in the morning, East Coast. And I know they have to do it for West Coast purposes. They want to get all their fans in, let them be home from work at least around 5 o'clock to be able to sit down and watch. They can't start this thing till 8 o'clock, Johnny Mac.
You're preaching to the choir here. I just say it about games, playoff games, any sport. I mean, you should start that thing at 7 o'clock as early as possible on prime time in the East Coast. But TV runs the world, Jody. And you're right. They want as many people home as possible. And on the West Coast, that's going to be 5 o'clock. So it's 8 o'clock here. They run everything, Jody. Television runs everything. And even you talk about the 10 minutes before the pick. Now, in a typical year like last year, this year's a little bit different, but Jacksonville still knows who they're going to pick. All this nonsense about they don't know who they're going to pick. They know who they're going to pick. They certainly knew who they were going to pick last year. But, it's a TV vehicle, so they tell them, wink, wink, take a little time off the clock. They don't want to go up there 9 and say 9:59 and say, Trevor Lawrence. No, they want to build it up. They want to set the draft. They want to set the stage. TV runs everything, Jody McDonald, in this country. Everything.
It's certainly the big dog in the room. Nobody argues that. And it will be on not 1, not 2, 3 television networks tonight. You have your preference between ESPN and the NFL Network. If you want to know the backstories, the lead-ins to the draft.
The human interest stuff. ABC, human interest, ABC.
Don't know. I don't even know if I'll hit the DVR button for that. No, I will be zoomed in. And oh, by the way, for us here in Philadelphia, the Sixers will be playing at the same exact time, which is going to be a major pain in the rear end. But let us zoom in on the Philadelphia Eagles. As of right now, they have the 15th and 18th pick in the draft. If it goes 10 minutes per pick, the Eagles will not be selecting till after 10 o'clock tonight, maybe close to 11 o'clock. If they move up, it'll be earlier. If they move back, it'll be later, as a matter of fact. And the talk over the last 24, 48 hours is they are more likely, if they're going to move up than move back. How high is high, Johnny Mac? How early do you think we can get that first Eagle pick in tonight?
Well, this is one of the things where I don't think it's good. I'm thrilled that we have this platform here on Birds 365 and JAKIB Media. But, if I wasn't on the air every day, I would have shut this nonsense down a couple days ago, because all you have is this constant rumors and constant, oh, the Eagles are looking to trade up for Jameson Williams. Oh, the Eagles are looking to trade up for Derek Stingley. They're looking to trade up for this, for that, for that. What I can tell you about the Eagles, here's the part I found most interesting for this reason. The New York Giants are now kind of floating out there that they might take Jameson Williams at number 7 overall, which would, be a shock. I think it's, more subterfuge than anything else. But who's in New York? And what have we been talking about in this lead up to the draft? Brandon Brown. Brandon Brown knows who the Eagles like. They could say things change. They certainly change, but he's got a good beat on who they like and who they don't like. So maybe he's trying to leverage the Eagles and to go up really high for that type of player. So maybe that's a little bit interesting. But I will say, to me, if they're going to go up into the top 10, I think it would be for edge rusher or corner. I just do. And I'm not going to waver from that. If it's a targeted trade up, I think, as I said, pretty consistently, it's going to be Jordan Davis, couple spots. You might have to get ahead of Baltimore to get him. So those are your options. And I start to think at corner, and I say to myself, well, if you're going to play as much zone coverage as they did last year, why do you need to bother to go up and get Derek Stingley or Ahmed Gardner? If you can get Andrew Booth down later in the draft or Trent McDuffie, I don't think there's that big of a chasm between those tiers, especially when you're going to play a lot of zone. But if they don't want to play a lot of zone, if they only played a lot of zone because they were forced to play a lot of zone, maybe they want that type of difference-making player. And then I start to rewind to last year. I think a lot of people don't realize the Eagles had 5 players they were targeting at 12. And I say number one was Kyle Pitts, and that was ludicrous. He was never going to fall that far. The others were Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith at receiver, and J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain at corner. And of that 4, if you would ask me who they would have taken first, it would have been Horn. Who they would have taken second, it would have been Surtain, and then Waddle, and then Smith was the last one. So they wanted a corner for a while, and they would have taken Horn or Surtain last year if they got to him. So maybe there is something to that. If one of the two, Stingley might go 3 overall now. People talking about that with the Texans. If Gardner falls past the Jets at 4, you could see a little slip probably to 9 with Seattle. If those guys start to fall to the back end of the top 10, Howie Roseman has told us consistently behind the scenes, look, you guys know I'm aggressive. If they have a targeted player they want, they'll go up and get him. And he has shown that with DeMonte last year. He's shown it with Andre Dillard. He's shown it with Fletcher Cox recently, going up to get particular players that they like, especially if that's the last player they have in a tier, like it was last year with DeVonta Smith. So I think if they're going to go up in the top 10, it's cornerback or edge rusher. It's not wide receiver. But that's just my feeling.
And the point you made about if they're going to play a lot of zone, do they really need to use the assets to move up to get a guy who's a notch above the other cornerbacks, who has man-to-man skills, who can get out there and play on an island, who can get up and bump a guy and take him off a route? They didn't do a ton of that last year. I'm hoping it was more out of necessity than Jonathan Gannon's ingrained belief as to what is the best defense you can run out there. We don't really know, because they did have. And, I was a Steven Nelson guy. I'm kind of bummed that he went elsewhere this year. I thought he did a representative job, and it was the defensive coordinator's choice to play as much zone as he did. I think if they'd put him on an island, he would have been okay. But it's water under the bridge now because Nelson is gone. Who's going to be that other cornerback? I hope it's a guy that they have faith in, that you can go mano a mano, and you can bring an extra guy to the pass rush, and that you're going to try. You're not just going to allow quick hitters out of the backfield, 80% passing completions. How many weeks in a row did they do that? 3 or 4?
Too many.
Ridiculous. Why? Because they're playing off, because they're playing zone. And the quarterback said, all right, I'll get it immediately out of my hand. We'll just chunk you all the way down the field. I hope that's not, I hope it was out of necessity rather than their way of living. If they move up for a corner, it's either Stingley or Sauce Gardner. If the price is not prohibitive, that it's going rate and what we've seen, the charge to move up in a draft, I'm completely fine with that. Even though, you've heard me whine and moan about the fact that they need to get an edge pass rusher in this draft, that if we see too much Derek Barnett again this year, I'm going to pull the little hair that I have left right out of my head. If it's a cornerback is the big play and it's one of the top 2 guys, and they're going to change their on-field defensive strategy because of it, and we'll see a more aggressive Eagle defense this upcoming year, perfectly fine with it.
Well, and I would say to your edge rusher point, that would be the second part of it. It would be Kayvon Thibodeau, if they're comfortable with his issues, whatever they are, because I haven't heard them, other than he believes in himself. Um, and Jermaine Johnson would be the two guys, because obviously you're not going to be able to get Hutchinson or Walker. So um, if those guys start to fall to the back end of the top 10, I think they could potentially make a move for them as well. Um, I'm not buying the Jameson Williams stuff. I think they like him. I think he's the number one receiver on their board. It's really tough to just, you know, you can say, and I talk about vacuums all the time, Jody. You probably get sick of me saying it, but you can say all this stuff all you want to in practicality and say, well, you can't worry about last year. And I agree with that. But you're going to get a top 10 pick at wide receiver last year. You're going to go up and get a top 10 pick, and you don't have a dynamic thrower of the football right now. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, if it falls to you and you don't have to give up the other parts of the equation, and you could still fill some of these other needs later in the draft, yeah, that's fine. I think, they stay at 15 and 18. I think one of those picks is going to be a receiver. But I'm not going to go up and get a receiver in the third year consecutively. And really the fourth consecutive year, you used a premium pick on a wide receiver.
Yeah, see, I'm okay with the philosophy of going hot and heavy after a wide receiver, because you do have to break them down individual years. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, now a tight end. Okay, we'll see about that. Jalen Reagor, damn close to a bust. There, he gets one more year. We'll see if he just comes in and wows the snot out of everybody this year. I'd bet good money against it. Then you got Devontae White and whatever wide receiver you're going to take this year. You're 1 year into Devontae White, and you got 5 more years with whoever the wide receiver is. The fact that Jalen Hurts isn't a dynamic passer, or wasn't a dynamic passer last year, crossing your fingers and hoping and praying that there's an improved Jalen Hurts coming in this year. You don't know that. Well, but next year, then you're banking on finding that dynamic passer down the field. You're sounding like the Eagle fans, John. Not ready yet. We're not ready to get that star wide receiver, because we don't have the quarterback to get him the football. You can't play the we're not ready game.
Now, for me, it's not to that degree. I hear what you're saying. I'm just not trading up. I expect to get a receiver if I stay put at 15, but I'm not going up in the top 10 to get a receiver again. I'm not going that route because I need too many other things. Remember, too many in too many years, we don't even know what would have happened if the Eagles hit on Jalen Reagor, if the Eagles hit on JJ Arcega-Whiteside. All I know is DeVonta Smith wouldn't be here, and that's bad. People love him, but they would have gotten a different player. Who's to say that player's not Micah Parsons? Probably not going to be, but because they don't take off ball linebackers. But you get the point. You have no idea the repercussions of these decisions, and go wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. And then on the back end, we're talking about all these needs, Jody. We haven't talked. We need a corner. We need an edge rusher, defensive tackle, safety, on and on, running back in the day 3. Wide receivers still. They need a backup tight end. On and on and on and on. All these needs. Part of the reasons there's so many needs on this team is because of failed draft picks. So I do think you have to put that into the equation.
Right. But we're only talking about taking one need off the board if you move up to get a wide receiver. You're giving up one of your other picks, because you're going to use the pick if the guy falls down. If Jameson Williams falls down to 15, there's a good chance the Eagles are going to call his name. So if you have him that highly rated, do you want to pay the price to get to 12 or 13, whatever that price
7?
is?
No way.
7, no. I'm with you. That's the Giants trying to beat the Eagles a little bit. I'll agree with you on that one. They're not moving up to 7. He's not worth that kind of whatever you'd have to pay to get the 7. Moving up a couple of slots, if he's like Jordan Davis, you got to get ahead of a specific team. Not impossible. That's wide receiver. If he is really above and beyond their number one choice at wide receiver, if you got to pay a little extra to just make sure you lock it in, I'm not I wouldn't be upset with it. Too much? Yeah, no. He's coming off an ACL. You're going to move all the way up to 7 and give up 2 major draft picks to move from 15 to 7? No, I don't see that happening. But we'll get the thoughts of another draft expert joining us next. We'll start with the wide receiver position and how aggressive should the Eagles be for it. Our buddy Rick Saratella from NFL Draft Bible is going to jump aboard heavy draft coverage on this draft day edition of Birds 365.
It's the biggest, most important draft in the history of this Philadelphia football franchise. The JAKIB Media Sports 2022 NFL Draft Special. Live on 6abc.com from the Ocean Casino and Resort in Atlantic City. Presented by First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. IBEW Local 98, Stateside Vodka, United Healthcare, Mesa Law, 6ABC, and Budweiser, the official beer of the Philly sports fan.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the memories. Go for the view that goes on forever. Go for the bubbles in your bathtub and in your drink. Go to bed whenever you want. Or don't. Go for him. Go for her. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up,
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. The glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rim...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
John McMullen, Jonah McDonald here with you on Draft Day on Birds 365 JAKIB Media YouTube channel. It's draft day, so we need a draft expert. I'm talking NFL draft with this guy for over a decade now. Is NFLDraftBible.com, one of the best draft sites. He went digital this year. If you want his rankings and ratings and scouting reports on all the players, and you catch his podcast over on SI.com's website. Rick Saratella jumps aboard with us here on Birds.
I love it. Rick's got the draft week beard going too. Time to shave this week, Rick.
I'll tell you, it's unbelievable, guys. I can't believe it's here. You know, you guys are talking Eagles 365, and you know, we get to do this once a year, draft morning, Christmas. So happy holidays.
Yeah, it's for you. It's draft 364. The rest of the year builds up to get to a day like today. All right, so Saratella, we putting on the spot right away. John and I were just discussing before you came on. Eagles and wide receiver. They have a need there. I'm sorry, Zach Pascal, their big offseason acquisition isn't cutting it for me. They need an upgrade at wide receiver. The way the draft looks as of right now, Eagles at 15, guys who are going to be on the board teams in front of them. You can only guess at what trades could come down. How did the Eagles best handle the wide receiver position? For you, is there someone worth trading up for? Or do you just say, hey, come on, guys, there's 3 or 4 or 5 guys. One of them's coming down to you. You don't have to give up anything. You're going to get a hell of a player at wide receiver if they stay put at 15. How do you judge the wide receiver market some 11 hours before this thing gets underway?
I'll put my GM beanie on. If I was constructing a playoff team with a first-year head coach, looking to add some playmakers, knowing that the Falcons at 8 and the Jets at 10, I think is where you're going to see the first 2 wideouts off the board. So do I want to settle for the 3rd or 4th best player at that position, or do I want to parlay my 2 first-round picks, move up to the Jets at 10 because they're willing to drop back? And to me, draft picks are like lottery tickets. So especially in this year's draft, if I'm not getting a blue-chip guy, well, then give me maybe a middle-round guy, and maybe I'll go pick OBJ and go get myself Odell Beckham Jr. off of free agency at a bargain discount and run the risk that way. That's how I would approach it, just because I don't think you're going to get a top receiver at where the Eagles are. I'd go best available player, which I don't think, your number 3 or 4 wide receiver is going to warrant that spot.
Well, there's some other names, Rick, that people have speculated the Eagles could target to go up in that top 10 range, and it's basically the corners, Derek Stingley Jr. if he falls a little bit, Ahmed Gardner if he falls a little bit, and then the edge rushers, Kayvon Thibodeau, Jermaine Johnson. You mentioned that term blue chipper. Now that we're here, because I've heard that a lot, there's not a ton of blue chippers at the top of this draft. So how many blue chippers do you have? How many no doubt about it guys? Like corner, I look at corner. What is the tier between Gardner and Stingley, and then the second group with Trent McDuffie and the Kyer Elams and the Andrew Booth Juniors of the world?
It's significant because I look at Stingley and Sauce as guys you can build a defense around. Those are cornerstone pieces. And so the drop-off is significant at the cornerback position. And I hear Stingley is the number 1 rated guy on the Texans draft board right now. Yeah. So, and, I'll tell you the other thing real quick. My blue chip guys are Kayvon Thibodeau, Derek Stingley, Ike Ekwonu, and Kyle Hamilton. After that, those are my 4 guys. I'll say this, the one thing I've noticed this year more than ever before is there's more of these draft props. They started off like, they would have these quarterback props and maybe a couple over under props with the bigger name guys. But now you're seeing props all over the map, and you're seeing sharp money come in on Trayvon Walker, number 1 overall. You're seeing sharp money come in on Derek Stingley, number 3 overall. And you can't ignore this because Vegas has a pretty good track record there. And so we had a pretty good source confirm that Stingley is the number 1 guy on the Texans board. We shall see. And I think Sauce Gardner comes off to the Giants at number 7 because they're looking for a James Bradbury replacement who's going to get cut or traded. And so, the fact of the matter is Howie Roseman has no problem trading up, moving up for a guy that he likes. Is one of these blue chip guys going to be available? He's really got to get up into like the Giants' first pick at 5 if he really wants to get one of his prime targets. I think if it's a wide receiver, you got to get in. Maybe it's Giants at 7. You got to get in front of Atlanta, who's almost a slam dunk. Calvin Ridley's out for the year with the gambling hiatus, and so I think the Falcons are all in on a wideout.
All right, Ricky, I'm going to sing your praises here for a second because, again, you and I have been doing this for over a decade. And, I start following your players like tomorrow or, Monday after the draft is over and done with, looking ahead to the next year. And you've shown the ability to be flexible. There have been guys who have been 1, 2, 3 on your draft board. And then by the time the draft rolls around 360 plus days later, they're down in the teens or down in the 20s. Some years you put a guy at the top of your mock draft and you never move him. You've been loyal to Kayvon Thibodeau all year long. Had an injured year, has said some things in the postseason season that have not excited NFL teams. Some people think he's a little cocky, whatever else. You've not moved. You've said you think he's the best edge pass rusher, even though it looks like he could be as low as the 4th edge pass rusher drafted come tonight. Unfair criticism of Thibodeau. Why has he stayed atop your draft board when a lot of others have moved him down? What is it you love about this kid? And if he's a guy who comes down to the Eagles, how good a player are they getting?
I love Kayvon Thibodeau, the player. I don't love the person, and I understand why he rubs people off the wrong way. And I think one of the quotes I heard that kind of resonated with me was like, hey, this is really the first time we've had a true millennial athlete where this guy was this guy's been on social media his entire life. He doesn't know a world without social media. And here's everybody singing his praises and bowing down to him, the chosen one since middle school, right? Like for the past 10, 12 years of this guy's life, everything has been, hey, Kayvon Thibodeau, hey, Kayvon Thibodeau. And you heard, I don't know if you saw the NFL Network interview, but man, he's an inner city LA, Cali, braggadocious, highly talented kid, and it's going to rub people off the wrong way. And I think it's going to really rub the traditional general managers the wrong way that are saying like, hey man, you're not reliable. Can I count on you? And I'll tell you what, he's more articulate and intelligent than people give him credit for. And I think that the Giants gave him a hard time about, hey, what happens when people on Twitter poke and you don't love the building, right? And he kind of called them out at the podium as press conference. But and we could throw stats out the window, but I saw somebody completed that workout. I do think he'd be in consideration for the first overall pick. And I think this is a guy that can take over games and be a double-digit sack guy. I love his technique. I think he has the bend. People question his dip and his flexibility. I don't know. I think he has a whole pass rush repertoire that's going to be a Pro Bowl caliber player. That's just me, guys.
Yeah, I love the description of the millennial athlete who has been there. So I'm going to give you another one. I'm going to play devil's advocate, which you mentioned the numbers with Trayvon Walker, because I heard this from an NFL GM and it kind of rung true for me, Rick. Georgia has got to worry about the transfer portal, and they have so much talent that they have to get their young kids on the field or they're going to lose. One of the top 10 picks in this draft, Jermaine Johnson, went to Georgia and he transferred because he wasn't playing. So they have Walker, obviously, Devontae White, Jordan Davis up front. They're going to have 7 picks on defense in the top 70, 75 kids in the draft. They got a kid who's going to be probably a top 10 pick next year already. And you probably know his name. I think it's Jalen Carter, something. So they were just rotating guys. And he wasn't asked to go after the quarterback that much. And he was asked to set the edge. And that kind of says, guess what? This is a really talented kid that is willing to do what you ask. So when it comes to projection versus performance, the stated performance at the college level that you said, which obviously Thibodeau is better. How do you weigh that? How do you weigh that when you say, okay, I'm Trent Baalke and I want that's been Trent's reputation. I want that upside.
Yeah, and I mean that's what he, there's certain guys, Trent Baalke, I'll say Matt Rule's another one. They bet on athletic traits and then they lean on their coaches to tap out, max that potential out of them. And I mean, yeah, if you ask Trayvon Walker to play end, he can do it. You ask him to move inside, he can do it. Heck, you ask him to drop back in coverage, he could probably do that. He's that athletic. I mean, I saw one play, someone highlighted, this guy ran maybe 50 yards downfield and tracked down a wide receiver. And that's the kind of quickness he has. So when you're talking about speed, that's the number one trait that NFL teams love. And when you talk about a guy that's big, fast, physical, can do all those things, versatile, I understand the allure. I like Trayvon Walker more than I like Aiden Hutchinson. I think there is a higher ceiling. I don't know if Aiden Hutchinson is going to ascend like Trayvon Walker at the next level. I see more of a plateaued finished product with Aiden Hutchinson. Nothing wrong with that. Still a plug and play guy that's going to contribute. But, you know, if you're looking for, you know, the Yahtzee, you got to go with Walker over Hutchinson.
I'll give you a quickie analysis of the analytics of the Georgia defense. John gave you the, hey, we got to shuttle guys in or out, otherwise they're going to transfer out on us, which I think is dead on accurate. The other one is, if you're forcing 3 and outs almost every single possession, you only got so many plays to put up stats for a tackle for a loss, a sack. 1, 2, 3 points goes to the opposition. Well, then, yeah, you're not going to be a stat hound because you're standing on the sidelines while your offense gets the ball back. Saying that, 2 guys at Georgia that I think were just stone cold studs that I think you need to judge per what you see on the film as you judge their athletic traits rather than what numbers they put up with statistics. Jordan Davis, who the Eagles should be interested in, may even be willing to trade up and get him, and Nakobe Dean, who I think is the best linebacker in this draft. I know others think it's Devin Lloyd from Utah. I think it's Dean. When he makes plays, he makes them in spectacular fashion for me. So I'll say, given a chance to do even more, he will do more. Give us your rating on those 2 guys, your scouting report on both. Will they be overdrafted, underdrafted? The Monmouth defensive tackle and the best linebacker in the draft for yours truly.
Yeah, I think when I just did my mock, I had Jordan Davis coming off the board to the Baltimore Ravens. I want to say at 14. Okay, yeah. So to me, he fits that DNA. And, you know, where I struggle with Jordan Davis, who I value probably more than most, is I think most teams see him as a 2-down player at this point. Not that he won't develop into a 3-down player, but I think Trayvon Walker is going to see more snap counts, more reps year 1. And so that's why he's regarded as a higher rated prospect. Jordan Davis, pound for pound, man, he might be a specimen with the measurables there. So I think Davis is right around the middle of the first round, as early as Baltimore. I think that's how high he can go. Nakobe Dean, I think when you compare him to Devin Lloyd, you know, Lloyd covers a little bit better. Lloyd has the prototype size, and that's going to be more alluring to the NFL teams. I still had Nakobe Dean. I think I had him sliding down to the Bengals at 31. I was trying to find a home for him. So I think that Dean and Lloyd probably – I had Lloyd going to the Patriots. I forget where they're picking. So that's kind of 21. So yeah. Right in that range, I kind of see. And I don't know if we see another interior linebacker come off the board in round 1 after that.
Rick, you do this stuff 365 days a year. So I want to give you 3 names. Jody just gave you one, is Nakobe Dean. George Karlaftis, and then Tyler Linderbaum. These are guys who've been throughout the pre-draft process. First round picks, first round. This guy's a first round pick. This guy's a first round pick. This guy's a first round pick. Those 3 names, are they all going in the first round? Because I think there's a chance all 3 don't go in the first round.
Really? Karlaftis, Linderbaum, and who was the other?
Yeah. Nakobe Dean.
Nakobe Dean, yeah. I mean, I think Dean, like, you know, the NFL is a funny thing when it comes to size measurements. Like, just because Dean is a shade under 6 foot, that could keep him out of the first round. Just because Tyler Linderbaum has 30-inch arms, he's getting labeled. It's like, no way. This guy is too technically sound coming out of that program. He's going to probably last a decade in the league. I had Linderbaum going to the Steelers because if they don't get a quarterback, why not strengthen what they like to do is run up the gut, that inside run. So I think Linderbaum can make sense for the Steelers. I have a hard time seeing such a polished player escape the first round. And, you know, it's amazing the copycat media world that we live in. And I understand, like, Daniel Jeremiah comes out and says, hey, there's some teams that have George Karlaftis with a 3rd round grade. Suddenly, the whole Twitterverse and draft media is saying, oh, you know, the teams are all over the map on George Karlaftis. I don't think so. The teams I talk to say this guy's getting taken a lot higher than you realize. I always tell the story. I went into Penn State. Karlaftis was a true freshman. I had no idea. I never even heard of the kid. And I'm watching, other guys, and Karlaftis, I got the binoculars up in the press box. This guy, Karlaftis, keeps coming into my binocular. I said, who is this guy? Throwing around grown-ass men like rag dolls. I call him the Greek god. I mean, this guy has sneaky athleticism. I know he's not flashy. I know he's not going to hit you with that spin move, right, and athletic burst. But this guy has strength. He has power. He has polish. And, yeah, he's not a double-digit annual sack master guy. But what he is, he's going to be a very dependable, high-floor, immediate impact player who's going to get you 7, 8, 9 sacks every single season. I'm a big fan of George Karlaftis. I think that actually, I'll say this. I think he's one of the safer picks in this year's draft. And that's the beauty of the draft. And this draft especially, I've tried not to listen to too many other guys out there, but when I do, it's like completely opposite of what I think. It's amazing to me.
All right, since you went Penn State, I want to ask you about a specific Penn State player, because we don't believe the Eagles are going to get a safety in the first round. Kyle Hamilton is probably going to go off the board before they get there at 15. If they trade up, I don't think it's going to be for a safety, because the Eagles have shown that they value the safety position only so high. If we're waiting for day 2, round 2 or round 3, where the Eagles have 2 picks, they did bring Jaquan Brisker from Penn State in as one of their 30 pre-draft visits. I know some people really like the player. Everyone believes it's Hamilton, and there's a drop-off, and either Brisker or a sign from Georgia and Dick's kid. How do you rate the safeties after Hamilton in the NFL draft? Is Brisker a second-round pick or a third-round pick?
I think he's borderline. I think he's right on the fringe of a second or third round pick, depending on how that board shakes out. But Brisker's a polished player too. Multiple years starting at Penn State, could slide into the slot if needed. And so he's got, little bit height issues, but measurables were really good. So I think he is like right around 60 if I had to give you an over under there. I think it depends on, how teams view the Baylor safeties. I think Jalen Petrie probably goes higher. And maybe even you want a dark horse for the first round, Jalen Petrie out of Baylor. He's a guy that can play both safety spots, highly intelligent, prestige, character, preparation, maturity. And then the other guy, I had a good friend of the show on yesterday on my show, Brian Baldinger, came on, and he was the second guest I had yesterday that sang the praise of JT Woods, also from Baylor, who – oh, by the way, I think he had 13 turnovers in 9 games this past year. We had him out at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, and he stood out all week long. I think he's now pushing potential top 100 status. So that second tier, the sign sneak into the first round, I don't know. I think Daxton Hill definitely. And don't forget also the Honey Badger's still sitting out in free agency. So that's
we know that here on Free Time. It's a constant conversation here, Ricky.
8:00 tonight, Rick. Last year we knew it was going to be Trevor Lawrence. We know it's going to be Jacksonville this year. They're not trading out. Nobody wants to trade up. So TV's going to do their thing and take the full 10 minutes, but we've heard Jacksonville. I don't know what's worse. The draft day organization, we've been joking about it this week, from the movie. Jeff Carson, I believe, was the GM. Jody McDonald of the Jacksonville Jaguars giving up everything in the draft. Or this actual Jacksonville organization, where it's supposed to be Shad Khan wants Aiden Hutchinson. Trent Baalke wants Trayvon Walker. We all know Doug Peterson wants one of the tackles, Ike Ekwonu or Evan Neal. I think Tony Khan wants Orange Cassidy. That's a joke for Jody McDonald. So he's not involved. So you have your GM hat. Break this tie, Rick Saratella. And not even the player, but also the pick. Should they give Doug Peterson what he wants at the number 1 overall pick?
Yes, because I say that with a little bit of inside knowledge there, and that is a front office in disarray. And Tony Khan's vote might be the most important one, believe it or not.
So Orange Cassidy's going #1 overall.
Yeah, and because he's the one that actually conducted the interview with Coach Peterson, and the lines of questioning didn't really have a lot to do with football. And so I think Doug Peterson is a football guy that if you brought him in here to be successful, give him the ingredients that he needs to work with. And, Trent Baalke is got to really set up Peterson for success. And if he doesn't, well, hey, you look around the league, a lot of these front offices are working in unison. And a lot of times the head coach is really the one making the call. And the GM's there to kind of stack the board and work together. But ultimately, like I look around the league, a lot of the top teams, the head coach is the one pulling the trigger here on the final call. So I think they do need to give Doug Peterson, and as funny as that might sound, I think they need to lean on him and give him what he needs if they're going to have any kind of success, because, man, that front office is not have a good reputation around the league.
All right, Ricky, again, giving you credit for sticking to your guns on a couple of players, some of which I agree with you, some of which I debate a little bit. Carson Strong. The reason I bring him up, the Eagles aren't going to take quarterback in the first round. We know that. The second round is probably going to be a positional again. Third round, Eagles drafting quarterbacks on day 3, 4th and down. Yeah, they don't find the diamond in the rough. Some other teams do. The Eagles never had. If they're not going 1st and 2nd, and they're not going 4th and out, you got that one little zone of 3rd round where they do have 2 picks as of right now. Could they take a quarterback depending on how things shake out? Possibly. And your guy Carson Strong seems like a guy who could actually be there. Why have you stayed bullish on Carson Strong? Why do you think he can be an NFL quarterback?
Well, I'll elaborate on Strong. I will let you know, I have Malik Willis going to the Eagles in round 1, and I can expand on those thoughts. But Carson Strong.
We'll get there next. Give me the Carson Strong thing, then we get the Malik.
Carson Strong, to me, and you hear like, hey, pocket passers in the league are an ancient dinosaur, right? And then I look around the league, and I don't know, last time I checked Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they're still pretty good. That's what Carson Strong is. He's a pocket passer. He can dissect the defense. He's very smart, maybe too smart for his own good, rub some people off the wrong way with his kind of cocky attitude, and somewhat of a know-it-all. I thought I saw a little immaturity this past year at Nevada, just with his body language when things didn't go his way. I want my quarterback to be a leader of men, and some of that immaturity rubbed me off the wrong way. But when I look at the mechanics, the arm, the ability to make all the throws, I think Carson Strong has a chance to be as good of a quarterback as any. Now, he comes with a lot of medical red flags. Going back to his high school, he had like 2 collarbones, spinal stenosis. Now he had a knee procedure where he had to get some stuff cleaned up. So I do think now he might even be looking at a day 3 kind of draft scenario. But to me, that's the guy. If you're looking for the Dak Prescott, right? To me, Carson Strong is that guy.
All right, Malik Willis, you put it on the tee, Rick. Malik Willis to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to shock everybody. What's your thought process behind that?
Yeah, and I ran this by Baldy yesterday, and he said I'm not crazy because they do consider themselves to be the QB whisperers down there. But, one thing I know, Howie Roseman drafts a quarterback every year. And what my understanding is that the Eagles brass have done a deep dive into Malik Willis and have come away convinced he's a much better, not just a little better, a much better thrower than Jalen Hurts. And so when you have more than one quality quarterback, you have draft equity. And you've seen Roseman flip Carson Wentz. He's flipped Sam Bradford, and he likes having that. And I think that, again, I'm not a big stat guy. This one kind of resonated with me too. I thought it was fascinating. Not that I put much into it. Jamarcus Russell's right up there with the stat, but I thought it was remarkable that in the whole history of next gen stats, they do all this stuff down at the Senior Bowl. Malik Willis recorded the highest ball velocity mile per hour of all time. It was something like 77 miles per hour. The next closest guy, Josh Allen, it blew him away. He was like 10 miles per hour more than Josh Allen. Like, this guy has a cannon. And I just think that he might be a slightly better upgrade than Jalen Hurts, and they don't have to trade Jalen Hurts this year. But man, what would Jalen Hurts command in a trade return? And I think and they still have Gardner Minshew who could back up Willis. So I still think it's in play.
Yeah, no, not happening. I'll disagree with you, Baldy. Anybody else? The Eagles are married to Jalen Hurts. He's going to be their quarterback.
Just when I thought it was out, Rick Serafino pulled me back in, Jody. I thought I was out.
Start your CJ Stroud evaluations for next year, because that's the guy the Eagles will be targeting when we get it 365 days from now. All right, I want to go to a different position, and that's cornerback. First round is a distinct possibility. If not, if we drop down to the second round and or third round, the Eagles go a different direction. The corner they really want goes before they can get him and the like. How deep is this cornerback draft? Who are some guys on day 2, round 2, or round 3 that the Eagles could get that, granted, drop off from Sauce and from Stingley, but the best of the rest in the draft? How good is round 2 and round 3 if that's where the Eagles need to get their quarterback too?
I think it's a good draft for corners. And if Sauce and Stingley come off the board early, like we're anticipating, I think you can hold out and in round 2, maybe even get a Tariq Woolen from UTSA. This kid
I love that kid. Right.
Yeah, I mean, this kid, to me, he's a borderline first-round talent. And I think because of the depth of the draft, like, the big name pedigree is going to come off the board. Andrew Booth from Clemson, Khair Elam from Florida. They got the Power 5 pedigree. They're going to probably come off the board before Woolen, but I would not put it past Woolen to be one of the premier corners in this year's draft. So he's like 6'3", ran a sub 4.40. I'll give you another one to keep an eye on out of Fayetteville State, Joshua Williams. He will probably be the highest selected FCS player in this year's draft. He's got size as well. I think he's like 6'2", another one of these 4.3 corners. All this guy does is create turnovers, forced fumbles, interceptions, pick sixes, just a true dynamic playmaker. And I think that's a guy that gets zero hype in this year's draft. That's a pretty good one. And, there's a lot of guys floating around. Gregory Jr. out of Ochita Baptist. I love that kid. I think he's going to be a solid player. So there's some pretty good depth. I don't have my board in front of me, but the Sam Houston State, Zion McCollum.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah. So I think that's a guy to target in the top 100 as well.
He's at Rick Saratella on Twitter. Follow him there at NFL Draft Bible. Read him at si.com/NFL/draft. Rick, last one from me is I'll keep it at corner because this is a kid I love, but it's more than just corner, and that's Marcus Jones from Houston. It's just a slot guy. He's very undersized, but he's a great returner, and that position has been devalued. He can kick return, he can punt return. So explosive they give him the ball on offense at times. I've seen people say he's going to be a 7th round pick. He's too small. I've seen people say he's going to be a day 2 pick, late day 2 pick because of all the versatility. Where do you have him? And where do you think he's coming off?
Yeah, he is one of the harder evaluations because he comes from that mid-major group of 5. He's been an all Conference USA standout now for several years, but he is maybe 5'8", if that. And so I think it's a little bit of a problem, but yeah, he's a one-dimensional slot player for your defense, but he will be a valuable roster spot because he can not necessarily return kicks, but I think the punt return ability is what teams value more because the kick return has been diminished. You don't get too many of those opportunities, but when you can make plays with the ball in your hands and you can provide special teams play and you can be let's be honest, a slot corner is a starter in the NFL. I looked it up. Every single team, all 32, passed the ball more than 50% of the time. And I couldn't find any other time in modern day NFL history where that's happened. So the slot corner is a starter. I struggled with the evaluation due to the size, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes as high as round 3. I wouldn't be surprised if he slides down around 5 or 6, maybe.
All right, very specific final question for me, because yes, Eagle fans always want to talk about skill possession and who's going to be making plays, who's going to be getting fantasy points. We believe the Eagles are going to take a running back on day 3. The Miles Sanders last year of his contract. They got good production out of Kenneth Gainwell, who was a day 3 running back pick last year. They'll look to add one more, and of course Scott as well. But they'll look to add another running back. Who's the underrated day 3 guy? Even if you got to go to round 4 and not a steal in round 7, but who is the best running back who won't be drafted in the first 3 rounds in the NFL draft and could be there for the Birds in round number 4?
I'm looking at Kyron Williams of Notre Dame, and I know he's higher on a lot of people's boards, but I think he ran a 4.68 at the combine, which is almost a death sentence for running back in the NFL, right? So I don't think he's going on the first 2 days. However, this kid can play football now. His game speed is a lot faster than his time speed, and I think when you get a guy like that, I remember Alfred Morris was a day 3 pick. He ran like a 4.6 something coming out of FAU, I believe. And so, Kyron Williams has explosiveness. He can catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit. And, he was a big time player there at Notre Dame. Unfortunately, we've seen 40 times really kill some draft stock here. And I think he's going to go day 3, but he might turn out to be one of the real gems.
All right. So I want KH from ND. That would be Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame, but you're telling me I'm going to have to settle for KW from Notre Dame. Okay. Yeah. Well, if he's a player, that's all we ask for. Rick Saratella is a player when it comes to the NFL draft. He's always good enough to hop aboard with us. We appreciate it whenever he does. Enjoy your Christmas, buddy.
Thank you, Mac and Mac.
Thanks, Rick.
That is Rick Saratella from NFL Draft Bible here with us on Birds 365. He opened the quarterback door again. Why does he do that?
Man.
Why does he do that?
Wow.
Malik, he's not coming here. It's just not happening. We got too much other stuff to deal with. We don't need to deal with a quarterback controversy with the Philadelphia Eagles. Or do we? McMullen and I will come back and discuss that next here on Birds 365.
It's the biggest, most important draft in the history of this Philadelphia football franchise. The JAKIB Media Sports 2022 NFL Draft Special. Live on 6abc.com from the Ocean Casino and Resort in Atlantic City. Presented by First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. IBEW Local 98, Stateside Vodka, United Healthcare, Mesa Law, 6ABC, and Budweiser, the official beer of the Philly sports fan.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the memories. Go for the view that goes on forever. Go for the bubbles in your bathtub and in your drink. Go to bed whenever you want. Or don't. Go for him. Go for her. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Yeah, okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of stateside vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
You got your Birds 365, guys. McMullen and McDonald here with you on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel on a big day in the NFL. Big day for us here on JAKIB Media. Got the big draft extravaganza down at Oceans tonight. Should be a great show and a fun time. You can head down and watch the show. We already filled up our luxury bus to get the people from Philadelphia down to AC. But you got your own car. You want to drive down, see the crew, and watch the draft with your friends from JAKIB Media, feel free to do so. John and I would like to be there. Unfortunately, we're both going to be engaged elsewise. John's going to be at the NovaCare Complex waiting for Howie Roseman to explain how he dazzled everyone with his draft day maneuvers.
Yes.
I got to do some CBS Sports Radio cleanup tonight after draft. And the funny thing is, John, I'm scheduled to come on at midnight. Oh, the first round's not going to be over.
No.
This is the post-draft show that I'm supposed to be hosting tonight. Only one issue. It's not going to be the post-draft yet because it's going to go past 12 o'clock. Shoot, I think it may go past 1 a.m. as a matter of fact. So we'd love to be down.
So I might get back from the NovaCare Complex and jump right back on Burst 365 with you. Who knows?
Yeah, you're going to be working late too. Both of us are going to put in late hours, and as they will down at Oceans tonight. So those who are going down, enjoy. I can't believe Rick Saratella did it to us. He
Ricky.
opened up the
TheOceanAC.com, by the way, before we get there, for all the information, you can watch it on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, also 6abc.com. So all the information, if you want to get down there, Seth Joyner's going to be there, Mike Quick, Rob Ellis, Derek Gunn, Devin Caney. So a lot of fun down at the OceanAC.com. Find the information there. Yeah, but Rick Saratella just dragged me back in, Jody. Dragged me. I thought I was out.
You are out, and don't sweat it. I watched Malik Willis because he got a lot of coverage at the end of last season, and he's a guy who's going to be in the first round of next year's draft, could be the number 1 pick. So I made sure I watched him last year. Coming into this year, again, a lot of buzz. Specifically tuned into the Mississippi Liberty game because it was a showdown between Malik Willis and Matt Corral. Corral was a better quarterback that day. Corral was a better quarterback all year. Corral's a better prospect going into the NFL than is Malik Willis. I understand. Ricky quoted the stat of the next gen 77 miles an hour. No one had ever thrown it that hard before. You need to actually throw it to someone. Not just how fast it travels in the air. Is it catchable? Can you throw it to the person you're throwing it to? And that's Malik Willis's issue, is accuracy. Last time I checked, the Philadelphia Eagles had a quarterback who is a tremendous athlete, who can make plays with his legs, who for me has strong enough arms. Some people don't think so. I do. I think his arm is perfectly strong enough. I think he can make all the NFL throws.
And the Eagles do.
And the Eagles do too. The problem? Accuracy. He's not as accurate as he needs to be. They're hoping that's a much improved trait that he has this year. Why would you replace Jalen Hurts with a younger Jalen Hurts?
Well,
it doesn't make sense to me. I don't think they're going quarterback anyway, but I most specifically don't believe they're going quarterback with Malik Willis.
No, and I don't either. But if you're asking why, we talked about it a little bit with Trayvon Walker with Rick. I mean, it is about traits a lot, and it's about projection. If it were this guy's the best college quarterback, he's going to be the best quarterback in the pros. It'd be easy. But it's not a level playing field. I mean, you brought up, Liberty Ole Miss. It's Liberty against an SEC team. I mean, number one, I'm guessing Matt has a better supporting cast in that type of game. I will say from Malik's standpoint, the traits, and remember, he transferred to Liberty, again, the transfer portal, to get an opportunity to get on the field. It's not like he wasn't a high level prospect. But from the standpoint of arm strength and athleticism, and I've said this and I believe it to be true, the Eagles have all 5 quarterbacks, the consensus top 5, graded above where they had Jalen Hurts when they took him at 53rd overall. But, that doesn't take into account what I always talk about, player development. The Eagles, one of the things the Eagles like most about Jalen Hurts is he's constantly improving. Every single year he gets better. And that's rare. You usually have ebbs and flows with players and as they go through their career. You might have an up year, you might have a down year, you might go sideways, you might go lateral. To this point, they believe he's gotten better and better and better each year, and it's only going to get better. So he's ahead, and they've been pretty consistent. Look, they want an upgraded quarterback. It's obvious, when you look into Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, blah, blah, blah. But they want a superstar upgrade. They don't want to just go from, one guy we've already started to develop back to square one with a guy who might have a little bit better traits. And you're just spinning your wheels at that point. So I don't think they're interested in that part of it. But if we're just who's the best college player, it'd be easy. Well, but it's not. And that's why you have kids coming from small schools. And we're talking about kids from Texas, San Antonio. And, it's about projection to the next level. And that's what makes it difficult.
I felt the need to look it up, and don't know why we're playing a commercial in the background here on Birds 365, but we'll see if we can get that cleared up for you. Malik Willis versus Matt Corral last year, Liberty versus Ole Miss. Malik Willis, 16 of 25, 173 yards, not one, not two, 3 interceptions. Matt Corral, 20 of 27, 324 yards with a touchdown, no INTs. Wasn't even close. Usually it's Mississippi against Liberty. Well, it's not Notre Dame versus USC. It's not Georgia versus Alabama. It's Liberty against Ole Miss. No, it's a huge game this year because it was 2 quarterbacks who are going to be talked about being taken in the first round. One looked like a first-round quarterback. The other one didn't.
Yeah, but Jody, you got to put some you got to put some context on the supporting cast. Ole Miss is an SEC school. Liberty, nobody.
John, guess what? The NFL is the SEC every week.
Yeah, I understand that. But the NFL also, by and large, grades Malik Willis as a better quarterback prospect because they're adding that context into it and saying, okay, this kid's got potential. Now, remember, if he stayed at Auburn and waited it out and perhaps, didn't transfer, for the vast majority of the casual fans didn't even know Liberty played football until Malik Willis showed up. So I am going to put some context. It's just like a Division II kid, a Division III kid, that Ali Marpet showed up one day and everybody looked at the Senior Bowl and said, what the heck? And he was doing well against SEC kids, and you could project that he was going to be a pretty good NFL offensive lineman. Turned out to be the case. Happens all the time, Jody. I mean, there are guys from small schools who, if they're going to play Ole Miss, they're going to get waxed, but they're going to be NFL players. You got to put that context on it.
Okay. I'm going to look at him as a guy, and it's funny because he played Matt Corral. Matt Corral had 3 skill position players graduate from him the year before, and he still had the kind of offense that he had. I'm not a fan. I'm not a Malik
Well,
Willis
that's
fan.
fine not to be a fan. Everybody evaluates players differently. I don't have a problem with that. I guess my problem is you're not taking into account the level of competition. I mean, 99 times out of 100, Ole Miss is going to destroy Liberty. I mean, that to me is not relevant to the conversation. From 1 to 75, or how many people they dressed, there's probably 10 players on Liberty that could even get into the Ole Miss facility. And I'm just throwing it out. I mean, there's a big difference in those two schools. And the fact that Malik Willis got Liberty to where he got them, I think I'm looking it up. They were 9-1 in 2020. They were 8-5. So, 17 wins at Liberty. That's why he's the number one draft. He's going, I'll tell you this, Jody. I don't know where he's going. I got him going 20 to Pittsburgh. He's going ahead of Matt Corral.
I'm suggesting that 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 6 years from now, the team that takes Malik Willis is going to wish they had taken Matt Corral.
Well, that's fine. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time they got a player wrong, a player evaluation wrong, and he's clearly a traits-based evaluation. I'll agree with you there. I don't even, I wouldn't take him. I'm being honest, because there's too much projection in my estimation. There's too much uncertainty. I'll agree with you there. But I'm not just going to go say, because he lost to Matt Corral had a better game because he's got Ole Miss, and I'm not. That's not part of my evaluation. Is all I'm trying to say.
Okay, and what I'm trying to say is it's exactly what my evaluation is.
Well, that's silly.
No, it's not, John. It's not. It really isn't.
Not?
I'm sorry that you and I don't see, but don't call my evaluation silly.
Well, you can get mad all you want, but that part is silly. If you go to the NFL,
John, it's not silly. It's the way I look at it.
Are the Super Bowl champions?
I've been covering football for a long time.
Are the Super Bowl champions better than the Jacksonville Jaguars? Do they have more talent than the Jacksonville Jaguars? Do the Los Angeles Rams have more talent than the Jacksonville Jaguars? Is that part of the equation when you match up those two teams? And that's the NFL. Is that part of the equation? Are you going to say the Los Angeles Rams have more talent than the Jacksonville Jaguars? Is that a crazy assessment?
Here's my assessment, John. No, and first to answer your question, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars don't have the talent of the Los Angeles Rams. If Malik Willis is going to be looked at as an NFL quarterback, if you're going to use a first-round draft pick on him, if you're going to turn over your franchise to him, using what he did at Liberty against Liberty's conference opponents, I think is foolish, to use your word. To look at what he did against his conference's opponents, the small conference that Liberty plays in, I think a better way to judge the capabilities of Malik Willis is when he plays against teams that are going to have a bunch of players that are eventually going to play in the National Football League, like a Mississippi. They didn't have too many opportunities to do that. They didn't play in the SEC, so you didn't have that many chances to look at Malik Willis and what he's going to do against the level of talent he's going to be asked to play against in the National Football League, one of which was Mississippi. He threw 3 picks on that day. He was lousy on that day. I know it's only one day, but that's a better judgment. A better.
Was anybody else on the field? I don't know who's Liberty's left tackle. I don't know who's Liberty's left guard. Who's Liberty's wide receiver? Who's Liberty? Was anybody else on the field besides Malik Willis and Matt Corral? Did they even play each other?
Production is meaningless this year because woe is he had to play with Liberty.
Well, let me ask you a simple question, Jody. You can go to every I mean, it's fine. There are players I think are better than NFL, evaluators. But, if you go to any draft person, anybody you respect, from Rick Saratella, the guys we have on this show, to Daniel Jeremiah, to whoever you want, Mel Kiper, whoever your favorites are, I've yet to see anybody who's got Matt Corral above Malik Willis. Not to say he can't be a better player. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. But all of these people think this is a legitimate NFL prospect. And part of the reason why is because They are using the context. No, you can't judge by Liberty and their usual opponent. And it probably helps you to look at him against Ole Miss. But if he's got the traits, if you understand he doesn't have the supporting cast and he shows you these different things, that's the reason the teams have latched onto him in a quarterback down draft. And he's potentially either the number one quarterback. Most people have him number one. Some people have number two behind Kenny Pickett. This is not like some wacko, just one guy saying, I think Malik Willis can play. This is basically most of the NFL saying, this guy's the best quarterback prospect in this draft. I mean, there's got to be something to that. It doesn't there?
Sure there does. Everybody is allowed to have an opinion, John. You've got one, I've got one, and here's my opinion. And if it flies in the face of Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, John McMullen, Eric Edholm from Yahoo Sports, who's going to join us coming up in about 5 minutes, I'm perfectly fine with that. I've been right before. I've been wrong before. I don't know what I'll be about this. I believe that Matt Corral will turn out to be a better quarterback than Malik Willis over the course of their careers. A big chunk of it is going to have to do with where they land, what team they join. Will they be given the chance right away? Are they going to have to wait? Or are they going to be thrown into the deep end of the pool? There are certain things that you and I and anybody else who's got an opinion on any of the quarterbacks have zero control over. We got no idea.
Yeah,
we'll have a better grasp as of tomorrow when we find out where these guys land. But my opinion is that Matt Corral will turn out to be a better quarterback than Malik Willis, plain and simple. And I really don't care what anybody else thinks.
I get it. All I'm saying, Jody, all I'm saying, and for some reason as you balked, if he turns out to be a better player, it's not going to be because of anything he did at Ole Miss in that game against Liberty, against an opponent that is not up to snuff of an SEC opponent. Now, if he gets matched up with Andy Reid, which he's not going to do because he has Patrick Mahomes, but you get my point. If he gets matched up, Matt Corral with Andy Reid, and Malik Willis gets matched up with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's not going to happen because they have Trevor Lawrence, but you get my point because I don't have a lot of respect for the Jacksonville organization. Guess what? I'm going to bet on Matt Corral. On the other hand, if you reverse it and Malik Willis ended up with Andy Reid by some strike of fate and Matt Corral ended up with Jacksonville, I'm going to bet on Malik Willis. You're right. A lot of it has to do with development and guys who can develop quarterback and guys that can get quarterbacks on the right speed. All I'm trying is, and that's what makes the draft difficult. If it were just that simple, and say, well, he outplayed him on this particular day, and he had the significantly better supporting cast. I mean, it can't be that easy. That's all I'm trying to say. If it were that easy, we wouldn't be having these arguments. It would be simple. Well, you just take that guy, you take this guy, you take that guy. But it's not that easy. You have these small school kids who have tremendous talent, and you try to project it to the next level. Tariq Woolen is a guy Rick mentioned from Texas, San Antonio. Well, if he plays against Alabama, guess what? He's going to look bad. He's going to look bad, but that doesn't mean he can't play in the NFL. That's all I'm saying.
Right. And I like the McCollum kid from Sam Houston State, and he didn't play against any SEC teams this year either. And I'm just judging him on traits. But one is going to be drafted in the first round, one's going to be drafted in the third round. I think if you're going to, and one's a cornerback and one's a quarterback, if you're going to take a chance on a quarterback who you're going to make the face of your franchise, you're risking a lot more on drafting traits.
Well, that's true.
I'd rather see production than traits if I'm going to use a first round pick on a quarterback to run my football team.
And you got the old Bill Parcells mentality. He's got that checklist of college success. You remember his old checklist? He was in that camp. He wanted to see production. But that's also a different era when guys would stay for 4 years and you would get a better feel for them. And now you got guys transferring, the transfer portal. You got out. If Malik Willis stayed at Auburn, and didn't go the route he did and fought through being a backup player and did all those things, who knows? He could be the number 1 overall pick because he'd have the SEC pedigree, and maybe he would have never played on the other hand. And you saw it with Fields last year transferring. It's a big part of it. It's a big part of the college game now. And guys have been smart enough to say it's better to play than to sit, because the NFL will find you no matter where you are in the information age. And Howie Roseman talked about this last week. No matter where you are, they're going to find you. And that's now Malik Willis is in a position where he could be the first quarterback off the board. If not, he's probably going to be the second quarterback. However, where I disagree with Rick Saratella is it's not going to be to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, neither one of us think he's going to end up as an Eagle. All right. John McMullen, Jordan McDonald, Mac and Mac guys, scheduled to join us next. Eric Edholm, the yahoosports.com NFL Draft Insider, joined us here on Birds 365.
It's the biggest, most important draft in the history of this Philadelphia football franchise. The JAKIB Media Sports 2022 NFL Draft Special. Live on 6abc.com from the Ocean Casino and Resort in Atlantic City. Presented by First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. IBEW Local 98, Stateside Vodka, United Healthcare, Mesa Law, 6ABC, and Budweiser, the official beer of the Philly sports fan.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the memories. Go for the view that goes on forever. Go for the bubbles in your bathtub and in your drink. Go to bed whenever you want. Or don't. Go for him. Go for her. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Yeah, okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
All right, we are the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. We're still trying to establish contact with Eric Edholm from Yahoo Sports. He's texting me right now. Say, hey, I haven't gotten a link. So I'm going to do some on-air producing here. And
tell him to check spam, Jody, because mine went to spam.
Let me read my exact last tweet to him. Have you checked spam, Eric? And he said no. He said he will check it as well. Don't know why we're having some issues getting stuff out. to our guests over these last couple of days. And the last problem, I guess, with mine, I punched up the wrong website and I was listening to commercials running underneath that. So that was on me. But we do have Eric at home. He has reached on in and he's ready to talk NFL draft with us, so we might as well continue the conversation you and I just were having, Johnny Mac. Eric, first of all, thank you much for hopping on board with us. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry for the late arrival. I just got the link a few moments ago, so
yeah,
I'm here.
We're having a spam problem, Eric. Things
yeah.
going to spam. It happens.
You know what? I don't take it as a personal slight, so we're all good.
You should not. John and I were just having a conversation about the quarterbacks that are available in this upcoming draft and how you evaluate them. I'm not as high on Malik Willis as some other people are, including Rick Saratel from NFL Draft Bible, who was out with us. Our number one had him going to the Eagles in the first round. Both John and I doubt that, but give us your scouting report on Malik Willis. Is he the best risk in this draft? Potential, upside, whatever else? Do you think he's overrated? Do you think that someone's going to get their quarterback of the future when they take him? Give us your read on Malik Willis.
I think you have to have a very clear, very concrete plan for him. I don't know, concrete's the right word. Maybe you have to change it on the fly. But the point is, I think playing him early could be a bad thing. And I don't know that kids get ruined or whatever. I don't think that's it. But I just think you can stunt somebody's development if you throw them in there without the proper tools. You know, I mean, they're look at Blaine Gabbert, for instance. Like, he got thrown in way before he was ever expected to go in. They're a different player. But, I mean, I just use him as an example. You know, here's a guy that Bruce Arians said he was willing to bet on as a starter. Maybe a little bit of Bruce being Bruce in that. But still, point is he's hung around for a while as a, you know, good enough to be in the league. But they threw him in at halftime of his second game, and he got clobbered as a rookie. He never developed, never had the time to kind of progress. So, with Willis, he's got the arm talent, no question about it. He can throw heaters all over the place. The whole field's in play with him because he could run. But I just feel like coming from that system, the Senior Bowl helped alleviate some of my concerns. You know, learning a different NFL style system, adapting to it, performing very well down there, gave me some real hope. That made me think, like, maybe he should be a first-round pick. And somebody's willing to bet on the traits and sort of live with the consequences if it doesn't work out. But I agree. I mean, I understand there's a pitfall with him. You know, there's no question that his, you know, what he did in college will not translate directly and that he's going to take a little time. But in time, you might have something interesting.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with quarterbacks in general, Eric. I think, you know, too many people come to the assessment, you either draft a good one or a bad one. And where they land is a big part of it. We're in Philadelphia, so I often think way back in '99, if Donovan McNabb didn't get with Andy Reid,
absolutely,
and some of those other quarterbacks got with Andy Reid, we'd be having a whole different discussion. So the landing spots is really, really important for these quarterbacks and these young quarterbacks always.
Yep.
But what's your board at the quarterback position? Who do you think's the best? That top five, which I think has really become a top four. I think Sam Howell's kind of teetered off into the second round territory. But where do you have this top four guys?
Yeah, and I like Sam. Okay, I mean, you know, starting in the bottom, if you will. I mean, I think in the right system, you know, you put him in a dome team, and that's the problem with I think a lot of these guys is that, like, you know, Corral and Howell. I don't think Howell can be the runner he was last season. He kind of added that element to his game. He's got a slim build, but I think he's, you know, his deep ball touch is nice, and you know, he's got, I think, the work ethic and everything to kind of, you know, start out as a backup, and then maybe in a year or two we'll kind of revisit him. Matt Corral comes with some questions about immaturity based on what happened a few years ago in high school and then early in his Ole Miss career. He's got some talent. He's got an edge. He's got a chip on his shoulder. You know, I could see a team like Seattle very much being interested in him. Then again, Seattle has also done a lot of work on Desmond Ridder. There's talk that, you know, they've got, I think, 41 and 42 in the second round. I don't remember the exact spot, but you know, package those picks, move up into the back end of round one and take Ridder there, because there's been a lot of buzz about Ridder, Atlanta, Seattle, Pittsburgh, a few other teams. So, you know, he would be that fourth option with some, you know, some volatility to him, or he could be really good. Desmond Ridder gives me more like Mariota, Alex Smith vibes. I think you kind of know what you're getting. He's going to be really solid. He's got some athletic traits, doesn't have a cannon. his accuracy is, not amazing. So I would say there's just some limitations to what he can do. But boy, I think he won't kill you. I really don't think his low interception totals, he took care of the ball, improved every single season incrementally. I feel like he's a solid choice. Kenny Pickett, if you ask me, I think he'll always be the quarterback that you're looking at what the neighbors have and you're looking at what this team has and just kind of wishing you had a Kenny Pickett with a little battery pack on the back. I mean, he's okay, but I suspect he'll be a starter who's always replaceable. And then Willis is the wild card. There's no doubt. I mean, he could be Tavares Jackson. He could be a shorter Josh Allen. I mean, really, I think there's that big a scope of what he could turn into, but he's grown on me the longer I've done this, the work and talk to people. I just think that it's going to be scheme specific to your point, John, which is crucial, I think.
And where do you land and who's going to be
100%.
advancing your career is huge. All right. Ask the same about the wide receivers. Since we went quarterback, we got to go wide out. And both John and I agree, much bigger chance of that having an Eagle impact than the quarterback position. Give us your rankings. Give us your ratings. How do you think they come off the board tonight, the top wide receivers?
Yeah, and when I do my rankings, obviously I rank for all 32 teams, which is impossible, right? But I try to give a league value of, a combination of my thoughts and also how the league perceives them. And, I've got Garrett Wilson and Jameson Williams back-to-back. Had Williams not suffered the ACL, he would have been ahead of Wilson. Not by a large amount, but I think his speed is the best trait that stands out of all the receiver candidates in this class, in my opinion, his game-breaking ability. And I think you guys, there's a chance that 12 hours from now, you're going to be talking about the Eagles possibly having him. I think they're going to look to trade up and get him. I think that's their guy. If they target a receiver, I think that's the player. If they sit back at, 15 and 19 or whatever, right?
15 and 18.
15 and 18, excuse me. Yeah. It's been a long few months, guys. The numbers are blending together. I don't know that receiver is necessarily going to be on their list. I mean, it could be, but my guess is that if they're going to target somebody, Williams is the guy. He's got that game-breaking ability. You got to ask and figure out why he didn't do anything at Ohio State. And he played. It wasn't like he wasn't out there. He just didn't catch passes. That's that raises some questions, I guess. But Garrett Wilson's going to be a really nice receiver in this league. Kind of Stephon Diggsy in a lot of ways. I mean, I don't know if that's an exact comp, but that's who I sort of compare him to. Olave is like everything you wanted Will Fuller to be. When he was healthy, you could see some of that. Over routes, 7 routes, 9s, that kind of stuff. Silky smooth, open up an offense rather, and attack a secondary. He's not a tackle breaker. Traylon Burks is cooled for some teams. I saw the Chicago Bears brought him in. They don't pick till 39. Can't imagine they would bring him in and they're not a big trade up candidate, but there are teams out there who wonder if Burks might slip to round 2. Green Bay has had him in, they have 2 picks. It's a good receiver class. It is, again, 4 years in a row, I would say, but I don't know that I love it quite like some people do.
Let's talk about the draft in general, Eric, because to me, I've rarely seen such uncertainty in the top 10. Not necessarily the players. We know the players that pretty much are going to be there, but where they're going to fit. Have you ever been this uncertain heading into a draft night of where the pieces fit?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been drama at number 1. There's still, I think, drama at number 2, 3, 4, 5, et cetera. Yeah, it feels like there are very few teams where you can just lock in a pick and just say, all right, they're getting this guy, right? Like last year, Najee Harris to the Steelers. I don't know how that just seemed so obvious that late in round 1, right? Yeah. I mean, but everybody had it, I guess it reminds me a little bit of I think it was the 2013. What was 13 with EJ Manuel was the first quarterback, right? I mean, go back and look at some of the mock drafts if they're still up, if they haven't been scrubbed from the internet. The Syracuse guy, I'm blanking on his name, the quarterback. I'm
blanking.
Yeah, I'll come up with it in a minute. But
his name is quite forgettable. We can all agree on that.
Ryan Nassib.
Ryan Nassib. Yeah.
boom goes the dynamite.
Yeah. Some people had him as a first round pick. Yeah,
like the 8th pick in the draft to the Bills or whatever, or Matt Barkley going 7th. Those guys lasted till round 4. I mean, it was, that
Ryan,
one
that's a good pull, by the way.
LSD draft, like what is happening here? But yeah, this one definitely has a feel of, if you told me like Kenny Pickett would last to the 32nd pick or something, would I be completely shocked? No. I can't find a home for him.
I have Kenny going in my mock 32nd. I couldn't find a spot for him until 32 with that 50.
I'm with you. I don't know where he goes. I mocked him to the Saints because I thought maybe somebody moves up for him or whatever, but it's hard this year. My mock's going to be, it's going to line the birdcage tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
All right. We know there are 3 left tackles who are going to come off the board very early in this draft. The Eagles usually default to the trenches after we get through the first round, but from the second on down, they are a team that's always believed you build from the inside out. How good an offensive line draft is this? Is inside better than outside? We know who the top picks are going to be, but from the second round on, Eric, how good an offensive line draft is this?
I think it's still pretty good. Bernard Raymond is a guy from Central Michigan who's growing on a lot of people, and I think you look at him and relatively speaking, how little football he's played, he could end up being a top, 40, 45 pick, maybe sneaks in around 1. Tyler Smith's a hot name. I mean, you could hear him called tonight from Tulsa. To me, that would be early, but it's like the Malik Willis pick of at quarterback. Like in 2 years, you might have something really special with him. You could see the flexibility with him. You could see, he committed a penalty and a half per game. I mean, it was almost absurd. He's a bear hugger. He's the guy who, could be the Titus Howard or even the Andre Dillard, I suppose, of this draft. So that's the worry, is that you're sort of gambling on a guy with tremendous upside who may never figure it out. But boy, he's fun. I like Abraham Lucas a little bit. Good pass blocker. I know, he's got some Dillard comparisons, so I got to be careful. But Nick Pettifrere from Ohio State had the horrible game against Michigan. Go back and watch the rest of his season. A lot of ups and downs, but he's got some talent. Rasheed Walker, Penn State. I mean, there's some interesting tackle talent. I'd say the interior strength is probably on day 2. That's probably your best bet to get. I'm not even sure that Tyler Linderbaum's a first. I think he probably gets in there. Kenyon Green is on that second borderline, if you will. Darian Kennard from Kentucky. Luke Gedeke, who's Raymond's teammate, I think will kick inside and be a guard. And I'm a big fan of Jamari Salyer. Not every team is. It's kind of 50-50, but he battled with Hutchinson in the title game and gave him fits, and so he's a guard center type who's also played tackle. I kind of like this O-line draft overall. It may not have, it's got the 3 guys at the top, but there's a little bit of depth to it. I think it's pretty decent. Guard stretches into the 3rd and maybe even the 4th round, I think.
All right, Eric, I'm going to hire you right here to be the tiebreaker for the worst organization in the NFL. So if Shad Khan wants Aiden Hutchinson, and Trent Baalke wants Trayvon Walker, and Doug Peterson wants Ike Ekwonu, who you're going to break the tie. But the second part is, who should you defer to if you could break the tie?
I mean, first of all, he's the owner can come off the top ropes and just say,
I own the team. Besides that, Tony Khan is, more interested in wrestling than so good.
That's why I use that analogy. I thought the smart ones catch on. I like that, John. It really is. And, obviously Tony does a lot of work with the numbers and analytics and whatnot too. I mean, I assume it's Walker, obviously. What do I think they should do? I mean, look, I get that Aiden Hutchinson has short arms, right, for a guy his size, but I watched him play. He can play. I'm tired of, all these guys getting beat up unnecessarily. And there's not much separating some of the top players in this draft. I think what the Jaguars need most, honestly, and this may sound ridiculous as a draft analyst, they need some accountability and leadership in that locker room. I can't speak to Trayvon Walker's character. I've never heard a bad word about him. Kayvon Thibodeau, it's been hit or miss depending on who you talk to. Some people love his edge. Some people it's a turnoff. But I've heard people go out of their way to rave about what Aiden Hutchinson adds to a locker room. Maybe some of it's fluff. One guy said, "Hey, stop podcasting," and this and that. But that's the only complaint I've heard about him. And I think he's going to be a really good football player, like a Chris Long. I think that kind of career arc, I think makes a lot of sense. So for a team that needs everything and can afford to miss out on a sort of generational talent or whatever, I'd make the safe pick. I know that goes against my draft theory, but for them, with everything they've been through, I would make sure I'd hit as many stand-up doubles as I could.
Yeah, hit a double in the gap. I agree. Just take it.
2 runs.
It's okay. You did well. You did well. Yeah. You made a successful pick.
All right. Let's put Jacksonville aside for a second.
Good.
Here in Philadelphia, we know that Harry Roseman is going to make a whole bunch of phone calls.
Yeah.
He may pull a deal. He may move up. He may move back. He may move up and move back because the Eagles have that kind of ammunition to play with tonight. Who's the guy who's going to pull the trigger and screw it up?
Yeah.
Not Jacksonville. One other general manager / organization we'll be talking about come Friday or Saturday and the rest of the rounds as well.
Yeah.
Who's the organization that leaves you scratching your head most often in the NFL draft over the last couple of years?
Well, yeah, if we're putting Jacksonville aside, it's a little, and again, obviously, Lawrence
could be Jeff Carson from draft day.
Yeah.
I always like to throw that.
I should rewatch that. I need to get a little more material for tonight. But I've never watched it all the way through. I've seen almost the whole movie, but
you're not.
I've heard I'm not missing a whole lot, but shtick value matters.
Yes, it does.
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of one.
All right, I'm gonna help you out here, Eric.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw you a life preserver. Mickey Loomis. He already lost to me. What the hell is Mickey Loomis doing? What we're here in Philadelphia. The pre-draft trade, the Eagles kick out one of their picks into 2023.
Yeah.
Mickey Loomis in a draft where, people think there might be 5 blue chip players, whatever, 15, 16 first round picks. And by the way, he trades with the Eagles. He picks behind them still twice.
Yep.
16 and 19. What the heck is Mickey Loomis thinking?
Yeah, that one didn't quite add up for me. And what it said to me, usually you see a trade gets announced or reported, you're going to have this initial reaction. And my initial takeaway was, what are the Saints hoping for? What's their best case scenario? Do they view themselves as contenders now with that defense? Okay, I get it. But Sean Payton's gone. You still have Jameis Winston, a quarterback. There's a lot of questions, obviously, with him. He's got talent, no doubt. But, they don't have a left tackle. Is that the position that they're targeting? Are they moving up? Who are they trading with? And what, Carolina, they're going to trade within the division? I don't know. Are they still need a receiver. Are we counting on Michael Thomas 7 games combined the last 2 years? Alvin Kamara suddenly with the injury issues that he had never had before on a big deal. There's just so many things to factor in with them. That's a good choice. And Mickey, to his credit, I've questioned some of his picks in the past. I think Jeff Ireland's a very good talent hound. They've come back to bite me on some occasions. They've had some selections that I didn't love and that have ended up being pretty good. They've had some that I've been ambivalent about, and they've not turned out well. It's a fascinating question. There'll be absolutely a team laying in the weeds that I want to see what they do.
And I'll give you one that I would potentially lean toward, and this won't score me any brownie points here in Philadelphia because it's an ex-Eagle guy. Andrew Berry in Cleveland doesn't have his first round pick. The Deshaun Watson trade, that's gone. They got a 2, a couple of 3s. By the time day 2 is over and done with, we're going to go, Browns added some talent to this team. So are we going to go, Deshaun Watson better be the greatest quarterback of all time. Otherwise, the Browns aren't making the playoffs this year. What do you think about Andrew Berry in Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fascinating to see how their, the draft philosophy that the analytics folks love to talk about or whatever, whether it truly holds up in the second round, where the pool is slimmer, you're not picking at the top. There's this whole idea of you got to have this really high athletic spark score. You've got to be, below a certain age, 22, 21 and a half years or younger, what have you. And, you've got to have this, and that measurable wise respective to your position, and so far it's kind of held up through the day 1, day 2 picks. But I'll be curious, without a first round selection, does that kind of affect things? They could use a defensive lineman, I think. I think they still need a receiver. I would think they're still on the lookout for a versatile offensive lineman. I've heard another tight end, maybe. I mean, they've secondary, they've done a good job of addressing, so maybe that's a luxury pick there. But yeah, obviously, any team without a first round selection, it's going to be a little harder. But this year's draft, I mean, like you guys said, there's not a lot separating the top 20, 25 players, in my opinion. And that means there'll be first round type talents in round 2. So at 44, maybe they get a somewhat of a scheme wrecker on the defense or something like that and do pretty well for themselves.
Eric, you brought up an interesting point. I started to focus on a little bit more. There's a lot of older prospects in this draft because of the pandemic and guys getting the extra year.
Absolutely.
How much have you heard teams around the league talk about that? Guys being a little bit older, if you're going to be 24 versus 21.
Yeah.
How was that shifting decisions?
Yeah. Pretty much any BYU or Utah prospect I've noticed this year. Some of the Mission guys, I saw a 26 in this year's class. That was, Britton Covey, I want to say, is like 25, whoever. But one other factor, too, is that technically speaking, in terms of numbers, this is one of the deepest drafts in NFL history.
Yeah.
Because of all the guys who stayed in school from the extra year eligibility. So I suspect, not to get away from your point, but I suspect the undrafted ranks are going to be stronger than normal this year. Whereas in 2020, they were, a little bit leaner because there were no pro days and guys didn't know exactly what they were picking, stuff like that. But as far as the age thing, it's a little harder to find those 20-year-olds going to turn 20 at some point in the next 6 months. Felt like last year we had more of them. The 21-year-olds as rookies, that sort of thing. It's a factor. I'm sorry. It is not a end-all be-all factor. If you tell me that there's a generational talent who happens to be 23 and a half years old, and you're going to pass on him for a guy with upside who just happens to be, 18 months younger, I'd say you're kind of dumb. I'm sorry. I just don't, I get it as a tiebreaker or as a one element in your scouting report. Sure. It makes sense. I get it, but and the younger you reach your prime seems to suggest longer, better, more productive careers. But I mean, outside of Cleveland and Minnesota, is it really like a prevailing, thing? I don't know.
We'll see how it shakes out tonight. I need your opinion on one more player. John and I kind of talked this through earlier in the show. Evaluating Georgia defensive talent. John's line of thinking why it was difficult was, hey, they lose guys like Jermaine Johnson.
I know.
Because they're so deep and so talented. They can't get them all on the field. So how can you determine how good they are? I say they were so good this year, 3 and outs on most possessions.
Yeah.
You can only accumulate so many stats if you got the other team punting after 3 downs. We know how talented the defense is. Jordan Davis, a kid the Eagles are certainly focused in on. Could he come down to 15? Would they have to trade up to get him? He only played oftentimes 1 down.
Right.
They get a sack on first down. Oh, it's 2nd and 15. Jordan, get off the field. You're supposed to be playing against the run. We see how athletic he is. We saw what he did at the combine. His ability to make plays was handicapped by different things that John and I alluded to. How good is this kid going to be when he gets to the pros?
Yeah.
Finds the right spot. Is he going to be a 3-down player, a 2-down player, a Pro Bowl player, an all-time player, a big guy who eats up 2 blocks and never does anything else other than give us your scouting report on Jordan Davis?
And there's a value there, too. And I love the point about the Georgia defense. It's hard to evaluate just how good are these guys when everyone is a future star, right? I mean, it's amazing to see what they had in 2020 and then what they had this past season. And, they had 6 draft picks on defense last year, right? 2, 1 late second or 1 late first round or 1 early second, I think. And I mean, just unbelievable. And to think to lose Johnson to Florida State as well. But, Jordan Davis was, I thought, really eye-opening in 2019, disappointing in 2020. And then again, eye-opening this past season. And, the stats are pretty meager, as you guys pointed out. What does he have, 13 tackles for loss in 40-something games, right? there's a stamina issue, no question about it. You cannot ask this guy to play 60 snaps a game. Most defensive tackles don't play that much anyway. Only a few rare ones do, like Aaron Donald and whatnot. I think he's going to be that first and second down guy. I don't think he's going to be a part of a 2-minute defense, right? You don't want him huffing and puffing. At the end of that SEC championship game, I thought he was going to throw up on the field. He was out there more than he normally is, and they were just getting killed. They had to keep him out there. And, it just wasn't pretty. He also isn't a huge penetrator for all these athletic skills, right? I mean, you see him moving better laterally than you do knifing into the backfield. Occasionally he'll overwhelm the guy offline, but he's just like, he's not the unstoppable force. He's the immovable object, in my opinion. So, he's going to be scheme specific. He's on different than the Eagles have had at that spot, but boy, I mean, what a game changer he could be. It really does open up some real possibilities. And I mean, Nick Saban raved about him. He's gotten a lot of love from the right people in the NFL, I think, or in the scouting. He's a tricky one, but those skills are unusual. He really is, if he can live with the playing 25, 30, 35 snaps a game, he could be special.
Follow him on Twitter at Eric_Edholm. Read him at Yahoo Sports, sports.yahoo.com. You can read Eric's mock draft. I see it up there, his final mock draft. I'll leave you with this, Eric.
Yeah.
Edge rusher's been a big deal here in Philadelphia. So the top 4, we talked about Hutchinson. We talked about Walker. No shot there.
Yep.
Probably 1, 2. Then there's Thibodeau, Jermaine Johnson. We just talked about the former Georgia player transferred to Florida State. Those are the top 4 guys. How quick do you have them coming off the board?
Yeah, I mean, it really is going to be tricky to figure out, where the third or fourth ones go. I mean, obviously, there's still some debate about actually fourth and third, fourth, fifth, for that matter. There's still some debate about how the Lions use that pick. But okay, let's assume that Walker, Hutchinson, and Thibodeau, are off the board in the first 4 or so selections. Now, Thibodeau could go a little later. I don't know that Jermaine Johnson lasts very long. I don't think he's getting to the Eagles. Let's just put that out there. Then you have a decision of, do we think George Karlaftis is worth a first-round pick? Some people would say yes, others a little less enthusiastic. Logan Hall's gotten some late buzz as a kind of a big base end, maybe more of a 5 technique, but he can kick inside too. And then on the other end, Arnold Ebiketie, not too far from you guys, I think has warmed, some evaluators' hearts, and to the point where he goes maybe a little higher than the people expect. There hasn't been that late buzz on him, though, so I think he might slip to day 2. So it's kind of a no man's land where they pick. And I would think that if they really, really like something, they're gonna have to be prepared to move up. But I think that may not happen unless some receivers. So day 2, guys like Dominic Robinson from Miami, Ohio, really like him. Kingsley Angabare from South Carolina, I think he's really going to be good. Do you take a chance on Ojabo? Because knowing that he's going to be out for a while, that's going to be a fascinating landing spot too. I mean, there's some good talent here, but I think it does stretch throughout the draft. It just feels like where the Eagles pick right now is a little bit of a barren area for that value wise.
All right, maybe the most important question we'll ask you today, as I know you are on top of things because you're as good at your job at what you do. They got weather issues at the draft tonight. Winds blowing 20 to 25 miles an hour. It's scheduled to be outside. It may have to be moved inside. If they try and weather the storm, will Roger Goodell's hair look more like Jerry Buss, Donald Trump, or Mel Kiper? Couldn't move it in a wind tunnel, even if you tried. What is the big Rodgers hair going to look like?
You know what I'm picturing, guys? You remember, I'm sure it wasn't a great memory for Philly people, but when Jimmy Johnson won the Super Bowl, and I don't remember who it was, a Leon Lett or somebody tried to mess up his hair, and it took some real digging, right? Like I'm almost wondering if Roger has some really expensive New York product that just kind of keeps it like tight, like that. Like the old leather glove, like a baseball glove, just sitting on his head.
And he can't get Mel's advice. Mel's not going to be there.
That's right. Mel's remote. That's right. Mel's remote this year. So I don't know. I'd love to see it just kind of flap up like a trap door, though. That would be
where Jody and I can help. It's not going to move.
Yeah.
It's not going to move.
Guys, you can see my widow's peaks here. I'll be joining you in a couple of years, I think.
At some point, yes, you will join us, but yeah, you got years to go, buddy. You're trailing us. You got a big time lead over us. You may not be Roger Goodell or Mel
I've been known to blow a lead or two, boys. I'm not the fastest guy.
Great stuff. Appreciate
Awesome.
you coming on board. No, it's going to be a busy day for you. Thanks for carving out a half an hour for us.
Sorry it took a little while to hop on. Love you guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks,
Appreciate it. That's Eric at home. Does a great job for Yahoo Sports. As John mentioned, his final mock is up there. Even more interesting. Find your favorite guys after today's proceedings. I'm always interested going into day two. Day one, everybody does their research. Everybody knows their players, except for Malik Willis. They all come from major universities that you had a chance to view on TV. Day two, you got to pay attention to the guys who know their stuff, who know the guys who are going to slot in, and it's a little bit tougher on day two than it is day one. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about day two, but we got to still put a bow on the show for today's Birds 365.
Is the biggest, most important draft in the history of this Philadelphia football franchise. The JAKIB Media Sports 2022 NFL Draft Special. Live on 6abc.com from the Ocean Casino and Resort in Atlantic City. Presented by First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. IBEW Local 98, Stateside Vodka, United Healthcare, Mesa Law, 6ABC, and Budweiser, the official beer of the Philly sports fan.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the memories. Go for the view that goes on forever. Go for the bubbles in your bathtub and in your drink. Go to bed whenever you want. Or don't. Go for him. Go for her. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glasses for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Yeah, okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
All right, coming back to put a bow on the show here on Birds 365. Don't forget, big JAKIB Media Draft Show down at Oceans tonight. The guys will get it underway right around 8 o'clock when the first round begins. Eagles not going to pick till well after 10, maybe 11, unless they trade up, which is the beauty, and that's why you got to be ready to rock at 8 o'clock, because you never know what Howie Roseman's going to do when the Eagles are going to make their first selection. All right, John, here's what we're going to finish with today. We each get one guy. Right now, the Eagles have 2 picks. Will they use both? Will they trade up? Will they trade? They may end up taking 3. Maybe they jump back into the bottom of the first round.
Maybe they go back down. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
they go back down.
But we've got to wait. We each get one guy to select that the Philadelphia Eagles will take, whether it's trading up to take, whether it's sitting tight at 15, sitting tight at 18, dropping down to get someone in the 20s. Give me one player that you believe will be a Philadelphia Eagle by this time tomorrow.
I'm sticking with Jordan Davis. I think they like him. I think they could get him. I think it's more palatable to go up a couple spots than going all the way in the top 10, because I do think you have other needs. You don't want to give up too much. And maybe they got to give up 101 to go up a couple spots. I think they'd be willing to do that. I'm sticking with Jordan Davis, even though there's a lot of Jameson Williams hype in the past 24 hours or so.
I'm going to go with the other wide receiver that Eric Edom just mentioned. He had Williams and Wilson and Williams. He had Wilson on top because of the Williams injury. But if Williams had been healthy and not getting hurt, he would have had Williams ahead of Wilson. There isn't rumors floating out there about Jameson, Garrett Wilson going in the top 10, which I think could be what happens, and that's why he won't be available to the Eagles. So I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I like it. In my Eagles-only mock draft on SI.com, I have 2 sort of separate ones. I said a trade-up would be Jordan Davis. At 15, it would be Garrett Wilson. I put Garrett Wilson because I think Atlanta is going to take Drake London. I don't know why, but I think they're going to take him. Jameson Williams probably going to go to the Jets. Chris Olave, for some reason, the Washington Commanders are in love with him over Garrett Wilson. I think there's a good chance if the Eagles just stay put that Garrett Wilson falls to them, and that would be a nice pick. That would be a nice pick. Just stand pat, take him, keep that 101st pick. I wouldn't be upset by that.
So you've got Davis. I've got Wilson. We'll see if either one of them land in Philadelphia. We will be back here tomorrow analyzing the snot out of round number 1 and previewing rounds 2 and 3. It is the entire draft weekend. It gets underway at 8 o'clock tonight with us here on JAKIB Media down at Oceans AC tonight.
Yeah. Get the car, drive down, theoceanac.com. Everybody's going to be there except me and Jody. But you got Seth Joyner, you got Mike Quick, you got Derek Gunn, you got Rob Ellis, Devin Caney, and a lot of fun at the Ocean AC. So you don't got to sit around and wait for the pay. You can have some fun in between. TheOceanAC.com.
If you got an easy day, head down now. Get your gamble on early, and then settle in for the Eagles Draft Show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Partner, I say we do this again. We'll have plenty of content tomorrow at 8 a.m. when we kick this bad boy off in 2 and 2.
It's the biggest, most important draft in the history of this Philadelphia football franchise. The JAKIB Media Sports 2022 NFL Draft Special. Live on 6abc.com from the Ocean Casino and Resort in Atlantic City. Presented by First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. IBEW Local 98, Stateside Vodka, United Healthcare, Mesa Law, 6ABC, and Budweiser, the official beer of the Philly sports fan.